In this next section for the satin stitch, we're going to focus on compensation. And when we're talking about compensation, we're talking about push and pull compensation. The important thing to understand about satin stitches when it comes to compensation is that satin stitches will pull, or they'll shrink in width, in the direction that the stitches are laid. They will also grow in length or push on both ends because thread has weight and it bunches up and it pushes to the edges. So they'll shrink in width and they'll grow in height. And generally, they'll pull or shrink in width about 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters on both sides. They'll also grow on both ends by about 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters. So when we're working with a satin stitch, we have to adjust and accommodate for this push and this pull that will take place. It's not that complicated to do. It may be at the beginning, but you're going to follow these very specific rules to do this, and by following these rules, it makes it very simple to do. So let's go ahead and jump into our very first lesson. Satin stitch lesson number 10, compensation. This lesson was created to show you what happens when you do and you do not apply push and pull compensation to letters. It's a very interesting lesson that really, until you stitch it out, it's hard to imagine what is going to happen exactly. Let me go ahead and bring this design up in the software so we can take a look at it. So you're going to see the letter I or letter O, whatever, just the single column next to a letter O. And the reason that I picked these specific letters was because a satin stitch for the letter L or I goes side to side, left to right, and they builds all the way up to the top. Well, so the ends are open on this letter, whereas the letter O goes in a circular motion, so the stitches are going the opposite. They're pulling in at the top instead of pushing out. So when you put these side by side, what's going to happen is what we talked about here in the previous lesson here, was that the stitches will pull 0.3 millimeters, 0.2 to 0.3 on both sides. So as these stitches are laid, going back and forth, it's going to get narrower in width by 0.2 to 0.3 on each side. And as the stitches lay, it builds up because thread has weight, and it's going to actually grow on the ends and get taller. Well, you see that it's open here on the letter I, but the letter O, the stitches are going the opposite direction, and so it's going to pull at the top here down, whereas this one's going to push upward because the stitches are going the opposite direction. And so what will happen is that if you don't apply compensation, you're going to see this letter I is going to get a lot taller than this letter O. This letter O is going to shrink in height, and the letter I is going to grow in height. They're both going to get narrower, but they're just getting narrower in the opposite directions. So in this lesson, we have this letter I and the letter O. Neither of these have compensation added to them, so they're just digitized as you see it. In the next row, no compensation's added to this letter I, but there is compensation added to the O. In the next row, we have compensation added to the I, but no compensation added to the O. In the last one, there's compensation added to both the I and the O. So you're going to get a good idea of what happens to each letter and each letter side by side. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to zoom in here again. And I just want to show you that these stitches go right to the edge. You can tell that there's no compensation added. Now we go down, you're going to see no compensation is added to this letter I. It goes all the way to the edges, but the letter O, we have pull added. So we've added 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters on both sides because we know it's going to shrink by that much. Okay, so still, this one's going to grow in height, this one's going to shrink in height. And we've adjusted for that pull in this letter. In this example, push and pull has been added to the letter I. You can see that it extends out on both sides and it comes in 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters because we have to back those stitches up so that as the thread gets laid, it will push up and fill that area because that thread has weight. But we didn't add any push or pull to the letter O. in this example. So this one will get taller, this one will shrink, but we haven't adjusted for any of the pull in that letter O. And the final one, we've actually added push and pull to both objects. So we've backed this one up on the ends, we've added width 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters on the side to adjust for the pull and the push. And we've done the same thing with this one to adjust for the pull and the push. And so you're going to stitch this out, and you're going to take a look at how they look side by side, and you'll be able to visually see what happens when you apply push and pull, if you apply it to one object but not the other. And it's just a really neat lesson to kind of to learn about how push and pull affects satin stitches. And like I said, this is something you'll want to stitch out onto a knit and a woven, because they will do different things. On a woven fabric, it's not going to pull as much, so it's not going to get as narrow. It's still going to grow in height, but it's not going to get as narrow on the sides. And so it's important to stitch it out so you can look at the difference, so you can say, you know what, you might want to use 0.2 millimeters on both sides for pull compensation on a woven, but you probably want to add 0.3 to both sides for a knit, because it's going to shrink a little bit more because it's not as stable as a fabric. So that's the kind of the point of stitching it out into both materials. So it's a really good lesson. It helps you to visually see what takes place with the push and the pull, and what happens if you do or you do not add it. We're going to do another lesson on compensation for working with satin stitches, and this time we're going to focus on doing text or lettering. And this one was just created to show you the difference of what happens if you do or you do not apply push and pull compensation to letters. So it's a very good example to work from. You're going to stitch this out onto knit and woven material. Let me go ahead and bring it up in the software so I can show you what it looks like. I have the design open here. It's SS_11, and if you have Florian Tool Control U software and you open up the WAF file, you can see that the artwork is underneath. And I provided this so you could see what I digitized over the top of. So I digitized right over the artwork, and in the first one I did not apply any pull or push compensation to the letters. In the second one, there is pull and push compensation added to each of the letters to adjust for the pull and push that will take place. So I'll just zoom in here so you can take a look at that. You can see that it goes right to the edges in this example on the first one, and if I scroll down, you'll notice that there's additional width on the sides, and it's pulled back a little bit to adjust for the push, and adjust on the side to go for the pull compensation, to adjust for that. And so it's just a really good example to stitch out, and you're going to want to stitch this out onto knit and woven material, and it's going to look a little different on each, and it's just a good way of seeing what will happen. In the area that you're going to see the most difference is going to be between like the letter E and T, because the stitches are going up and down in this direction, so they're going to pull up on the bottom of this E, and the letter T goes left to right, so it's actually going to grow in length on both sides. So you're going to see a difference in the height of these letters right here, and that's really how you can kind of tell what's going to go on, why you need push and pull. In this one, it should be more even along the bottom, and it's really noticeable when you don't add any push and pull compensation to letters, especially when you're working with a lot of letters like E and I and T and the H's, where they're going opposite directions. You're going to notice it even more. I like to share this with most people. If you fly a lot, you've probably noticed this. If you look on the back of the chair in front of you, and you notice that they always say something about the seat belts, and it's always embroidered onto the back of the seats. it always drives me crazy to look at it. And the reason it drives me crazy is because you can tell that whoever did the lettering did not apply any pull or push to it. So you have all these letters that are like different heights, and it really stands out. So next time you're flying, take a look at the seat in front of you, and where it has the embroidered section on the seat belts, and you'll notice this varying height of the letters, and it just drives me crazy. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyways, stitch this out onto push and pull, and so you can see what it looks like if you do and don't apply it. Push and pull compensation is extremely important with satin stitches, just like it is with fill stitches, and it's probably the thing that most people struggle with. But like I said before, it isn't that difficult. It's pretty easy, actually. You add 0.2 or 0.3 to both sides, and that's all you have to do. And in the next little video I'm going to show you how to actually apply push and pull compensation to letters. On the screen I have the words letter height, and this is coming from the previous lesson. And I just wanted to take a minute and to show you how to apply push and pull compensation to the satin stitches that you create. Now, if you have Floriani Total Control U software, you're in luck, because you do have the ability to adjust push and pull within the property setting. It's one of the few software programs that actually offers push and pull compensation. Most of them will let you adjust pull, but that's usually about it. So when I'm doing lettering, I'll just show you a little trick that I do. I find it to be, anytime I'm using a satin stitch, I find it to be very helpful. And that is, I will go up to the top and I will select the satin stitch. It's located right here, and I'm going to go right over to my properties, and I'm going to adjust this to a 0.4 density. I'm going to come into underlay, and I'm going to choose a zigzag and a contour and press apply. And I'm going to come over to push and pull, and I'm going to add 0.3 to both sides here for push and pull compensation, and press apply. And then I'm going to go in and start digitizing the letters. So you can see that in my properties I have that selected. You can see that those settings are still selected. So if, except for my push and pull, I did click off of it so before starting to do the stitch, so that's why you can see that that didn't stay. But anyways, now if I come over here to my letters and I go to digitize it, I'm just going to we learned in a previous lesson that if you're working with a right angle, you can actually do the angle in, angle out approach. I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to draw in my angles here, and then I'm going to right mouse click and do a start point and an end point. And I'm going to change this color for you too. So with this satin stitch, I'm going to come back in. I don't have my push and pull compensation added here, so let me come in there, and I'm going to actually change where the start point and end point is. I don't like it to be right at the very edges. I like it to come in a little bit, and you can see here that what the software has done, I've actually created this letter L, and I've added pull and push compensation to it, and I've got my density, my underlay set how I want it. And so it's just it's really easy. You can create the structures as you see them, like this one right here. You just create it, and you just go to your properties. I'll just quickly show you here, closing that shape, and I'm going to come in here and put on both ends, right click, start here, end here, and it's really simple to add push and pull to it. You just come over to the push pull compensation section, add 0.3 and 0.3 to both sides, and when I press apply, it's going to make that adjustment. And So it's really simple to do. It's not difficult. And that's really all you need to know about it, is just how to apply the push and pull compensation. And it's that simple. You use the properties box. If you do not have push and pull compensation in a software program that you're working with, what you can do, and this is very time consuming, this is one of the things I love about Floriani software, because it has these settings in it to apply both, is I'm going to come in here and I just digitized it kind of as I saw it here around the edges. I'm going to select it, and what I can do is I can actually back it up 0.2 to 0.3 millimeters, and I would actually extend it out on the sides, but you're going to have to come in and measure that, and so that's what's time consuming if you don't have software. I got it to 0.3, which is good. This one is backed up about 0.2. This one is backed up about 0.1 to 2, so I'd have to back this up a little bit more to account for the push that's going to take place. But that's how you would have to do it, and you'd have to do that for every letter, and you would have to, or every section, you would have to measure it. It's very time consuming. So it's a lot better if you have software that allows you to adjust for push and pull at the same time. And the Floriani software definitely lets you do that. You just digitize it all the way around right to the edges, and then you let the software adjust for the push and pull from the properties box, just applying 0.3 and 0.3, and I'm working in absolute values here, so it's working in millimeters. Press apply and it does it for you. So it's really simple, really easy to do. And so that's how you go about doing it.